am so excited to talk to you guys. I'm a huge fan of both of you, and the character is just amazing. Oh yes.
I see your t-shirt. I see your t-shirt.
I also have.
I want that red one so badly. It's like they sold out. Sorry, go on.
Oh,
Sorry.
we'll tell them. We'll tell them to send it to you. But I love the character. I love this character. She's so relatable. Not just in the academics viewpoint, but how did you bring so much of yourself for both of you? Because you wrote the character as well, Amanda. How did you both bring so much of yourself in this character? Were there any experiences that either of you use as inspiration for some of these moments?
Well, the first part of your question is how do you bring so much of yourself to the character? It all starts with the script. It all starts with the script. That's the bones of it. And then, so there you have that. It's excellent. And then I would say the team that Amanda brought to be able to create, honestly, during a fairly unsafe time, you know what I mean? To create a safe and creative atmosphere, because that's when you as an actor can show up and to try and be free as possible to get all those magical moments, because they're kind of floating in the air. And if you are connected with your acting partner and you understand the script and the script is supporting you, all you have to do is show up.
Yeah. And Amanda, I know that you wrote for the character. Was there any moments in your life that you use as experiences as well? I know the character is a woman of color, but it's also a woman in the industry, for both of you too. Like, as a woman in the industry, did you have some of those moments where you self-reflect?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes when, for certain women, when they get promoted to a supervising role, I think probably it's very complicated, because not only do you have to do your job, but then you also have to navigate your colleagues' feelings about the fact that you got that job. So there are people underestimating you, thinking you got there because of affirmative action, either because you're a woman, so you got excused for certain things, or anyway, I thought that whole subject matter was really interesting. And then also just like being, I'm turning 50, and I'm, I definitely, I have a teenager at home who thinks I'm like, totally uncool. And so it's been kind of, I think it's been on my mind, just like reflecting about how, about being, the different generations of feminists, how they can't get along and they can't agree on what it is to be supportive of each other and sisterly, and what that all means. And so I really wanted to kind of explore that.
Yeah, well, my favorite thing about Ji-yoon is that she used her given name, not Americanized. She's not June or Judy. I love how she brings her Koreanness into it without being in your face about it. That's like my favorite thing as an Asian person. I don't want to, like, you're Asian, like, yes, I am Asian. I recognize that. But what were the discussions between the two of you about how much Korean Americanness and culture went into this series?
I gotta tell you, there wasn't really that kind of discussion, because you just want to tell the story. I feel like I'm coming back to this because there's just not that the focus is not that it shows up XYZ. It's just to get the storytelling as honest as possible. So again, Amanda sets up the circumstances, like the Doljabi ceremony, which is the 100-day ceremony. So what you're talking about, which is something very specific for Asian Americans, of what's the stuff that actually just feels real and doesn't feel too forced or pushed. An excellent dramatically is that the Doljabi is seen through Bill's eyes. You don't see it through Jean's eyes. You see it through Bill's eyes. And you also see how comfortable Juju is in that family setting, because she completely belongs there.
Yeah.
And then you also have your classic aunts who are going to just talk shit about everybody. But yes. Yeah.
Well, what hits me most about Ji-yoon is she's career oriented, yet she still wanted a child. Nowadays you have to choose between family and children, or family or career, especially the decision to do it alone. What was the thought process behind adding this element to the story?
That was there from the beginning.
Mhm.
I knew that June was, I had a fantasy that she had a very, very profound affair with a Korean man and had a chance to have a baby, a biological child, and um, made a decision not to follow him, but to follow her promotion. And I feel like that's just something I've experienced myself a little bit and have had so many friends who have been in similar situations where they're either in medical school being matched with a location that their husband or partner isn't matched in. And so I was really interested in digging into Jiyoon's regret about that or not, and how she navigates the fact that her mom passed away and she wants to keep her mom's legacy alive and her dad's legacy alive, obviously. And it was a very important part of the story to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the storyline, and there's so much strain in Ji Yoon's life. And Sandra, you do a beautiful job bringing this out of her. Trying to fix problems when she has her own life is a mess.
Mhm.
And I know I do this. I always try to fix people's problems when my life is a mess too. And there's this internal struggle. How does Ji Yoon really keep it together?
Well, she kind of doesn't, but she does because she's a professional. She's competent. There's a reason why she raised to the top of her game, is because she's good at her job. Bill has a beautiful speech at the very beginning where he's just saying that maybe I can help you because you have already ascended to the heights of your profession. So there's a lot of professionalism in how she's trying to navigate these, because she's the face of the English department, and she has a tremendous amount of responsibility. So as we all hopefully do as professionals, especially when you rise into the position of leadership, you need to make that balance. So what is great is because it follows, Ji-yoon quite closely, you get to see the emotional impact of it as well.
Well, I can't wait for everyone else to see it too. But thank you guys so much. It was so lovely chatting with you. Huge fan of the series and huge fan of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I'm so
Hi,
excited.
Laura.
Hi, it's so excited. I'm so excited to chat with you guys. The story between you two is realistic and something that I think we've all been through. These stories between you two, the elder cis white professor and the young and up and coming and only Black woman professor who deserves tenure. It's so relatable, like, and not just in an academic standpoint. How did you both bring so much of yourself into this character? Were there any experiences that either of you used as inspiration for some of these moments?
Do you want to start, Nana?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I had the good fortune of having two friends who uh, are in academia. One who dropped out of her PhD program right before getting her PhD, and then the other who is now a fully tenured professor at Vanderbilt. And so hearing their, kind of horror stories over the years of what it was like of just clawing their way up the ladder to, one of them eventually a tenure track position, I had like a pretty acute awareness of how hard it is, especially for women of color.
Yeah.
And so that was the basis of, that was kind of what I had in the back of my mind. And then because the scripts were so well written, we just had to play the given circumstances in each scene. So I feel like in that way, you were like, it made our work really easy, and it just kind of like carried us, very seamlessly, to shore, I think.
Yeah, I would second that opinion and say the writing was so accurate, so detailed, and so honest without being pretentious, because this could have been a very pretentious thing because it's an important issue. And I thought the balance of serious and funny was truthful and made this whole thing highly watchable and interesting. And truthfully, it's the answers to most of everything here, aside from occasionally the director or Amanda telling us something, it's all in the writing.
Mhm.
And it's also the stakes for all of us are very high in this thing. And that to me, and they don't look like stakes, they don't lay it out necessarily right away, but We all have something terribly important to us that we don't want to lose. And everybody has one of
Yeah.
those.
Well, I love that it does touch on that for both of you. Like we've seen this played in real life as well. Like for me, Elliot has a fear of being forced out, and then Yaz, she wants to be tenured. You know, but I know they depend on each other for either for both of their work and for the tenureship. But do you believe in the saying, old dogs can't learn new tricks? Because we have either Elliot or Yaz. And so do you believe that old dogs cannot learn new tricks, or you can't teach old dog new tricks?
I would say it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks than it is to teach a young dog new tricks, but any dog that wants to survive better learn some.
Oh, that's good.
Survive.
What do you, no.
You gotta learn the tricks. You gotta learn the tricks. Yeah, I think that seems true. I mean, I can't, for my own experience, I've noticed as I've gotten older that like there are some things that I just don't want to do anymore. And like your tolerance for certain things starts to go down. And I don't know if that continues as one ages, but it seems like it does. And so I feel like there's always, you have to keep asking yourself, am I just being stubborn and refusing to acknowledge the changing tide? Or is this fear? Like, is this, why is it that I'm meeting up against this with such, intransigent? I feel like it's the word that keeps coming up, intransigence. Yeah. So, and so I think that's like something I've been continually asking myself, is this a fear-based decision, or is this, just being kind of stuck in the mud and being set in my ways? But I think, yeah, it is. I think ultimately it is a little bit hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, Nana, I appreciate Yaz calling out Ji-yoon, on scandals and what's going on, because oftentimes we do need to call out our fellow people of color. I love the relationship because it's one that's professional, but also shares a bond of commonality because solidarity for each other. How would you describe this relationship between the two of them?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's a relationship that's founded in, first of all, they're friends, right? Like they just get along well. They see the world in similar ways. And that is fortified even more because they are in this predominantly white, predominantly male institution that does not really seem to value them or does not really know what to do with them, right? Mm-hmm. And so then that makes them kind of war buddies, or and then as things progress and as Ji-yoon, ascends to the chair and of the department, and all of a sudden she is the establishment, it immediately starts to bump up against this relationship in which they were soldiers in arms together, raging against the machine, and now one of them is the machine. So it's like, what do we do now? So I think that's a really interesting setup for a dynamic of a friendship.
Yeah, well, I also with Bob, like Elliot's old school, like, and then dealing with Yaz too. But so much so he's forced to join Yaz's classroom just to survive. Is he in his own world of what is right, or do you feel like he's just refusing to evolve?
I would say a little of each. I would say, and there is some sense to both sides of the argument. Do you change what you're teaching because you have a preponderance of students that want to be taught in a different way? Does that necessarily mean it's the right way? Or is it by nature, by force, the right way because it's the only way the students will listen? Yeah, I think this whole show is filled with moments and problems that are very, if you really look at them, the show isn't telling you what to think on either side. Could we think that Nana is foolish in some ways? Could they think that I'm the foolish one? You could go back and forth depending on who you are and who you think and how much you think that school and teaching should be geared towards the taught. Now, on some level it has to be, because what good does it do if nobody's listening? But it's complicated. And I love that this thing doesn't necessarily tell you who the problem is. They tell you where the problems are, but they don't tell you who's wrong and who's right, because everybody's got something right on their side. I think that's part of what keeps you watching.
Well, no, definitely. The series is a dramedy. So it is comedy, and like it does have comedic times and then dramatic moments. How do you guys find the balance in keeping the drama in the story, but also providing some sort of levity towards it? Nana or Bob?
Well, I feel like, it's life, right? Like Bob has very aptly said, that like life is not 100% sad or 100% funny. It's funny with sad bits and it's sad with funny bits. And I think that is really, that feels really true. And because that was so true in the script, it allowed all of us to kind of wear our own skin in terms of like approaching these roles. And it kept everything very lifelike. So I think, so that was, I mean, that would be my experience. I don't know if you felt that way, Bob.
No, I did. I think the script is a great leader in all of this stuff, and it's the humor is written in. The choices are, do you push it or do you or how? But the truth is, we always have to be real in all of this. At no point can it become Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And if you're with a lot of smart actors and a lot of smart directors and a smart script, that's going to be pretty easy to happen. It could be, in other hands, this could be a very different story.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I look forward for everyone watching this. You guys are wonderful in it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Laura.
you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. I am such huge fan of both of you. I've been following you guys for a long time, and so I love you guys in this story. Both your characters are so relatable. Dealing with ageism, cancel culture, grief, cancel culture, and not just in the academic viewpoint, but how did you guys bring so much of your character? Yourself into this character? Were there any experiences that either of you used as inspiration for some of these moments? And I'll have Holland to go.
Well, since I've lived the longest of anybody present in this chat, I think that everything that you experience in life relates to these. This is such a true tale of what happens in life that it's, in a sense, as an actor, the stuff just comes forward. It's kind of effortless. You don't even have to think about it, because these are such fundamental things that happen. A person gets older, they're less powerful, they're less able, they feel less able, they're less chosen, they're pushed to the side, they're insulted, they're encouraged. It's not hard to respond to all of that, particularly if you yourself have lived a long time. So it was very, very relatable to me. But the thing is relatable to an audience, because everybody has someone in their life that they're close to who brings that understanding to them. So I think this show is tremendously relatable in a broadest possible sense.
No, definitely. And then Jay, like, how much of your experiences did you use as inspiration?
I used a lot, but like Holland said, I think when something is so well observed and so well written that it's easy to engage in as an actor, you just fundamentally understand it on the page. But I think that's an open feedback loop that Amanda Peet, our fearless and great showrunner and creator and writer, she created not only this world, brought the most wonderful human beings to the table to act in it, and the crew as well. But, also I did have some experiences. I experienced a few friends who had died, and, really close friends, and peer deaths were something that Amanda and I talked about a lot, that informed, I think, her writing of what it meant to lose a spouse. And I brought that to it, but also it was honestly, it was just a very easy role to engage in, because I felt it so much to the core. Everyone wants to be loved and to have someone to love, and to feel relevant in the world. And as specific and as microcosmic and well observed Amanda wrote this for academia, it does capture all the universal human needs and wants and desires. So it was easy.
Well, I'm gonna say it because you guys are both in this room. Bill and Joan, there's a reason why you guys are both in this room. Bill and Joan are hot messes. Like they both are in their own way. Bill dealing with grief, Joan dealing with the patriarchal system, and dealing with her whole career. Both just had it, and I love it. I love that the hot messes that your characters do, and hot messes are the most fun to play. What was the most fun about playing these chaotic yet complicated characters? I'll have to go with Holland.
Well, I think the sense of freedom it gives you. There's nothing you can't do, really. These are people who have slipped their moorings. You know, they're loose cannons. They're floating and banging against the dock, and boats are turning them over. So it's very fun to just go with your impulses and your anxieties and express them. And you know, it's a very jangling. Joan is a very jangled person, and I try to allow myself to be jangled and put off my balance and you know, be kind of a mess and stumble into things and not be steady and even keeled. And it's acting is a very doable thing. You do things. It's not what you say. It's what you do and what the place that you put yourself in. And so it's so brilliantly written because the situations that Amanda created are extremely stimulating. They make things happen between people, and you just let it happen. You don't plan it. So being unmoored is a good thing to play.
And Jay, chaotic, a hot mess. I need to know,
Yeah.
like, what was your mindset, and like, what was the best part about playing that?
I think for me, the best part about it was that I was deputized to go really deep with it. You know, when I experience death in my own life, I'm unhinged in general from all the rules that society has set up, and you kind of enter a more spiritual space where you're just like, this is it. We could go in any second. And I think both Joan and Bill are unhinged in their own ways from the rules that have been set out before them for so long. And they, for better or for worse, are almost incapable of, they're testing the boundaries of how far those things the rules can be pushed, but also they're almost incapable of abiding by those rules because the rules haven't served them. You know, when you did everything right and your career is in the basement, literally, you know, you're resentful of it. When you did everything right and your wife has died and your daughter's gone, you realize that like there are no rules anymore. And I think that's a fun place to play. But I think honestly, from just a more specific doing place, the way that Holland described it, which is really the work of an actor, is like I was pretty much deputized to infuse fun in Ji-yoon's life and in her daughter's life. And that was something challenging for me as a person, as a father coming out of a very hard lockdown with my kids and pandemic. Like I was not a very fun person during quarantine. And it was really nice to be deputized to do that and to find that within myself. It felt like a tall order, but it was exactly what I needed in life.
Well, I do want to touch on Bill's relationship with Ji-yoon and her family. You know, I know there's always been a mutual respect for each other, but how did that transition to something beyond friendship?
Well, I think, you know, I think the unspoken reality of work spouses is that there is love there, and hopefully people have good boundaries and they don't cross them. But like Holland's character Joan says, when my wife died, there's no guardrail anymore, and so all of a sudden all bets are off. And so it just, you know, everything sorts of changes. And you know, Bill, in the face of Bill losing literally everything that's important to him in life, he just turns directly to Ji-yoon and just realizes what he wants, and then he pursues her relentlessly. And I think, you know, that's a super fun, energized thing to do, but to also include her daughter in that courtship, I thought was like so smart and brilliant and true, you know, to what the reality of middle-aged dating is really all about. It's about making a new family with a whole new set of people, including her father and her culture.
Well, thank you guys so much. I loved chatting with you. I've been a huge fan. Holland, I love you so much. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, and I can't wait for everyone to see this as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.